Forgiveness is for ourselves. And when you start to realize that, when you start to understand that you don't forgive anybody or anything for anything other than yourself, hello, welcome to Authentically Aligned, a wellness podcast where we speak on all things wellness, from fitness and nutrition to meditation and mindfulness, healing, growth, self-help, and so much more. If you are a new listener, welcome to the podcast. And if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for your love and support. And I want you to know that I'm sending you that same love and support right back. Today, I want to talk about forgiveness. And I think this is a perfect topic to speak on right as we start to wrap up the year, because as we start to wrap up the year, we are deciding the things that we want to leave in 2024 and the things that we do want to take with us into 2025. And I think along with the release of things comes forgiveness. So oftentimes we think that forgiveness is for the other person. We think that the benefit is for the other person. And the reality is that I would say 10 times out of 10, forgiveness is for ourselves. And when you start to realize that, when you start to understand that you don't forgive anybody or anything for anything other than yourself, you start to have a different sense of peace. You start to have a different sense of acceptance. And overall, you just move through life in such a balanced, harmonious way. I think that so often we think of forgiveness as just this minuscule thing, but really, forgiveness is something that we have to work through. In order to be able to fully 100% forgive, we have to heal whatever it is that caused us the pain that we need to forgive. So when practicing forgiveness, the first thing, like I said earlier, is acceptance. And it's not accepting what somebody did to you, or an instance, or what something did to you, or even something that happened to you. A lot of times we have to practice forgiveness in things that have happened to us because we like to play the victim. And really the things are happening for us, but we have to work through those things. We have to heal through those things in order for them to be beneficial to us. So first part of forgiveness is acceptance. And once you are able to accept that whatever it is that happened, then you are able to address the way that the instance made you feel. And as you address the way that it made you feel, you understand that, number one, you no longer in this present moment are feeling those emotions. Those emotions are in the past. And by you continuing to hold on to those emotions, you are eliminating the chance of forgiveness to actually happen. But when you start to release those emotions, let go of the emotions, stay present in the moment, then you're able to really find that sense of forgiveness. I think as we continue to forgive and we continue in our practice of forgiveness, it's also important to recognize that whomever or whatever happened to you, the person who inflicted the pain or the hurt or whatever it is that you need to forgive, they were doing the best that they knew how in that moment. Most of the time when we have to find forgiveness for somebody, we believe that, or our minds will tell us that whatever this person did was malicious or it was intentional or with intent. But oftentimes the person just wasn't thinking about anything but themselves. And I know that we can all relate to moments where we have only thought about ourselves, and then it brings us to a point where we would like to ask for forgiveness, or we know we messed up and we don't want the person that we messed up towards to think of us as only that. And so as we start to practice more forgiveness for others, we start to create this sense of peace and understanding that we can only do what is going to take care of us. People are going to do whatever it is that they want to do. And we can either hold resentment and grudges and hate in our hearts for people, or we can release all of those things, accept them as who they are, accept their flaws, and then move forward. And I think as we continue to evaluate how to move forward with our forgiveness, it's important to also understand that there are people that maybe deserve forgiveness. Everybody deserves forgiveness only for yourself. To be able to move forward and find peace, you should find it in your heart that everybody is worthy and deserving of forgiveness so that you can move forward, because you're worthy of the peace. You're worthy of forgiveness. So why would you not give that to somebody else? But I think it's important to remember that just because we forgive somebody doesn't mean that they have to remain in our lives. Just because that we forgive somebody, it doesn't mean that we have to continue to be their best friend or be in a relationship with them, or even when it comes to family, be super close with them. We can forgive somebody and then we can distance ourselves, or we can forgive somebody and we can remove them from our lives. And when we really start to understand that, we're able to properly set boundaries. But if we haven't forgiven, it honestly leads to a point of avoidance, or it leads to a point of just going through the motions, knowing that something is festering in the air. Now, on the other side of that, if we choose to forgive somebody that we want to continue to stay close to, or we want to continue to have in our lives, it's important that we understand that boundaries are going to have to be implemented. For you to be able to forgive, you can forgive, but then moving forward, what are you going to do to maybe not put yourself in such a vulnerable place as before, or maybe not place yourself in a situation or an environment where you're going to be hurt in the future? And as we continue to move forward through our forgiveness and set boundaries, communication is huge, because if we are unable to, number one, communicate our forgiveness to the other person, and we're unable to communicate our boundaries to the other person, then we're holding everything inside. We're still keeping those feelings inside of us and holding on to something that we do not need to hold on to. So setting those boundaries, communicating properly, and understanding that as you set these boundaries, the other person is also probably going to have to practice forgiveness towards you. And it's going to be in an entirely different way, in a completely different way. But for somebody to be able to properly understand your boundaries, or understand why you have to step back, or understand why you have to do this, this, and this, it's going to require them the grace and the forgiveness towards you to move forward. And without communication, I don't think that that is possible. As we continue to talk about forgiveness, and we continue to talk about our emotions and the things that we tend to hold on to, whether it was an instance or multiple instances or an entire situation, we have to realize that those feelings, those emotions are not ours to keep. They're not ours to hold on to, because they're emotions that somebody inflicted upon us. So when we are unable to forgive and we're holding on to all of this that's building up inside of us, guess what? We are feeling 1,000 times worse than the other person is feeling because we're holding on to all of these things. Your body feels these things. This creates sickness. This creates tension in your body. It creates aches and pains. It creates anxiety. And releasing these things from your body, freeing yourself of these emotions that don't belong to you, is a huge factor in the moving forward and practicing of forgiveness. We've talked about forgiving others, but how do you forgive yourself? Because forgiveness to yourself and for yourself is just as important as the forgiveness that you give to anybody else. So often, because we are our own worst enemy, we're our own biggest critic, we are always thinking of the should've, could've, would've, and we hold on to these things. But when you truly are able to practice forgiveness and acceptance for everything that you have done, every instance that you've put yourself in, every bad day that you've had, you're able to continue to grow and build that peace that comes along in your life. Because we are our own biggest critic, we can sit and fester about something that we did months ago, or putting ourselves in a situation that allowed us to be hurt. And now not only do we have to forgive the other person, but we have to forgive ourselves because we say, oh, well, I shouldn't have been there. I should have known better. I should have. But if you would have, you would have. So you didn't, and that's okay. But moving forward, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit and focus on the past? Or are you going to stay in this present moment and make changes toward the future so that you are actively becoming better and growing and evolving? What's very interesting is that as you continue to allow these emotions to build inside of you and you continue to not practice forgiveness, really creates this sense of hate. It creates a sense of resentment. And then these emotions start to come out in instances where people don't necessarily deserve them. So you are projecting these emotions that you have not resolved within yourself onto somebody who maybe hasn't even done anything to you because you haven't practiced forgiveness for your past. And I think that's really important for us to recognize. I think it's really important for us to focus on and work toward within ourselves, because so often we will get into new friendships or business partnerships or relationships or connections where, because of something that somebody else has done to us, we're holding on to that resentment, and then we project it onto this person who absolutely does not deserve it. And we do it unconsciously. We don't realize that we're doing it until we do. But I think taking the time to evaluate this within yourself, taking the time to really practice forgiveness for yourself, for your past, for everybody in your life, it's not only going to create a sense of peace for you, it's going to create a sense of peace for the people in your past. And it's also going to create a sense of peace for the people in your future, because you are practicing emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, and you're able to understand and identify the times in which that isn't justified. Where is this coming from? And who or what or how do I need to forgive so that I'm able to accept and release, let go of, to be able to move forward and to grow in an emotional way, in a way of communication, in a way of connection, and continue to elevate not only yourself, but the people around you. And I think as this year comes to a close and we're starting to spend more time with the people that we love and the people that we care about, it's a perfect time for us to practice forgiveness. It's a perfect time for us to spend some time by ourselves and understand places and people and environments that we can pour a little bit more forgiveness into, that we can pour a little bit more grace into. And when we move with that mindset of giving others grace and giving others forgiveness, it allows us and them a sense of peace. It allows us as a community a sense of connection and fulfillment and unconditional love. Practicing forgiveness is a huge way of unconditional love. But like I said, just because you practice forgiveness with somebody doesn't mean that they deserve to be in your life. It doesn't mean that now, I forgive you, so everything is fine and everything's going to be great. That person is still going to be that person. So you have to use your discernment in moving forward. But the forgiveness is for you. The forgiveness is so that you can move forward. You can let go of the past and you can change the trajectory of your life moving forward, whether this other person decides to or not. I think another thing that is really important for us to think about when we start to think about forgiveness and forgiving is maybe things that have happened in our lives, that have happened to us, or that have happened to loved ones. A lot of times when we lose loved ones, we hold this resentment for that shouldn't have happened to them. We lost them too soon. All of these things are so valid. They're absolutely valid feelings. But when we forgive in an instance like that and understand that until we practice forgiveness, we are never going to fully grieve the situation. We're never fully going to find peace in the situation. When you take a moment to forgive God for that happening to not only them, but happening in your life and maybe leaving you here, then you start to build and create a peace around that. The same thing can go for, something like a car accident leading to a major injury or a disability, or maybe losing your job and then having to move across the country. All of these things, I think that we tend so often to hold on to the emotions that we felt in that very instance, and we carry those emotions with us through the rest of our life. And your body keeps score of these things. Your body holds on to these things. And that is where the illness and the anxiety and the stress and all of these things start to show up in our bodies. So making sure that you come to and find peace within everything that has happened in your past. There is nothing you could have, or especially now, can do about the past. And when you start to surrender, when you start to accept, then you find it in your heart to forgive, release, and move forward in that harmonious way, in that peaceful way, without all of the tension, emotions build up in your body. So as this year starts to come to an end, I want this to be something that you start to think about. Take time throughout the week, take time throughout the rest of the month to really evaluate areas of your life, people in your life, instances in your life where you can practice forgiveness or where you have been avoiding forgiveness, and going through those emotions and working through them, feeling them for one last time before you leave them in your past, leaving the emotions in 2024 and welcoming all of the positive, the peace, the harmony into 2025. Find that practice. Practice forgiveness every day. Practice forgiveness more than you would like to. I am sending you so much love and light. Have a beautiful week.